Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel for another midweek mystery video, which this week is not much of a mystery. I suppose it's a solved case. This video is going to be on the shorter end of the spectrum and I have no idea when I'm going to upload this. I'm just filming it as a backup because I'm moving house pretty soon. I'm moving with my girlfriend. I'm very excited, but I know at some point I'm either going to have a stress-induced breakdown or a complete lack of internet connection, and I want to be prepared, so this is a backup video. Plus, I wanted to talk about this case and couldn't quite justify it as a normal full-length video because there's quite a lack of information about this story online, but it's something that's very fascinating to learn about, so I really hope the length of this one doesn't put you off. And also, if you see this video, then know that I am stressed. Today we're going to talk about the life and crimes of Jason Vukovich, a case which one of you actually recommended I look into, and it's incredibly interesting. We know that I love a video that poses some interesting ethical and moral questions, and boy does this one tick the box. Vukovich is often referred to as the Alaskan Avenger or the Alaskan Angel, his version of vigilante justice, landing him with a lengthy prison sentence. Was it worth it? Jason Vukovich was born in Anchorage in Alaska in 1975, and when he was around 4 years old, his mother's husband, not his biological father, formally adopted him, Larry Lee Fulton. Both his parents were incredibly religious. They were Christian, and he grew up with his older brother Joel being taken to 2 or 3 church services every single week. Jason later wrote in an open letter to the community, "So you can imagine the horror and confusion I experienced when this man who adopted me began using the late night prayer sessions to molest me. Also, he beat me with a custom-made 2x4. Jason would be beaten with this device between his butt and the back of his knees quite frequently. So bad sometimes he couldn't even stand upright. It was not a good childhood." At some point, his older brother Joel ran away from home, leaving Jason alone with their abusive father. Soon Joel was arrested as a runaway and decided to tell the police the truth about why he'd escaped, that him and his little brother were being sexually and physically abused at the hand of their father. An investigation ensued and Larry Lee Fulton was charged and convicted of second-degree abuse of a minor, but as part of a plea deal he received a 3-year suspended sentence, meaning he didn't have to spend any active time in prison at all. He was a free man essentially. In his letter to the community, which I used a lot whilst writing this video, Jason writes that when he was questioned by investigators about this abuse, he downplayed it hugely, even lying about what went on. Although he was 13 or 14 by this point, he was scared, and regardless of what was happening, he still saw Fulton as his father. The family as a whole decided that Joel was wrong, that he never should have told the police what was going on, and after all of this happened, Jason was pulled out of school and the family house in Anchorage was sold. They moved to Wasilla, where he was homeschooled and kept in complete isolation. The state of Alaska did no follow-ups or check-ins, no counselling for him or his brother. Jason and Joel were forgotten about and expected to just get on with normal life. By the time he was 16, Jason was considering running away himself. He got jobs and worked hard, mainly so he could spend as much time away from home as possible, but also so he could save every single penny he could. One night he climbed out of his bedroom window, returning home the next day to collect his belongings. He wrote that he found what his parents were allowing him to keep in trash bags on the front porch, but his parents also withheld his driver's license and social security card, saying that they didn't want to facilitate his fight into sin. In an attempt to get as far away from home as he could, he headed to Spokane in Washington. Spokane? Suddenly doubting how to say that. He found a job quickly once he was there, but learned that he couldn't get paid without an ID, which his parents were keeping from him, so he becomes desperate, looking for any way to get money. With little choice, he turns to crime, stealing money from lockers at health clubs and gyms. About 5 months after arriving in Washington, he was arrested for theft and forging checks, spending time in juvenile hall. Surprisingly, he was never sent back home to his parents in Wasilla, so after this he just continues with his life of crime. He attempts to get jobs and does manage to hold down a few for significant periods of time, but didn't have any support system to fall back on, as he continually made poor choices. He becomes a regular weed smoker, which in his words he used to dull the painful effects of my upbringing. At 18 he was arrested again, this time for driving without a licence. This is a boy who left home at 16, like you forget he's a child, but throughout all of this, he's a kid. The same happened about 8 times over the next few years. Each time he was arrested, he would spend a few weeks in prison, each time longer than the last. He would follow construction jobs around the country, never settling in any one place for long. If a project ended, he would turn back to stealing to make ends meet. He writes, This behaviour continued as I matured, never saving money or planning for tomorrow. I existed only in the moment. Time and time again, my choices reflect a lack of concern for myself and others. Many, many nights I simply wanted to die. Eventually, he makes the decision to move back to Alaska to start over. Apparently, he wanted to start over and live free in his home state, find some happiness. But this was short-lived. He started stealing credit cards and got a 6-year sentence. Upon his release, he soon violated his parole and was arrested again, serving 3 more years. By 2016, he was doing well though, managing to get himself on the straight and narrow whilst enjoying the littler things in life, things that he couldn't enjoy in prison. But by this point, he had a criminal history across the USA, in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana and California, and had struggled with an addiction to methamphetamines. Since his move back to Alaska, he had been convicted on a string of charges, including theft, possession of controlled substance, and assaulting his then wife, a charge which he does deny, saying she and I had probably had a couple of wrestling matches. Whether you believe that is up to you. It was around this time that he said that he began to hear about things in the community, children being molested, rumours of men abusing their positions of authority to take advantage of kids. He decided to take matters into his own hands. Jason accesses Alaska's sex offender registry online, which includes details of people convicted of sex crimes, such as their names, home addresses, work addresses, and their convictions. The sex offender registry was originally designed to name sexual predators who repeatedly preyed on children, the theory being that sexual predators were unable or unwilling to control themselves, and the government couldn't always keep an eye on them, so the job of avoiding these dangerous individuals fell on the parents. Make their names and details public, make it the job of the parents to keep their kids away from them and safe. Nowadays, the registry isn't just for perpetrators of crimes towards children though. It also includes sexual assault and rape and other sex crimes. I didn't actually ever realise this until I was researching for this video, but there's actually apparently a lot of discussion over whether the sex offender registry is actually a good thing or not. I've always just taken it for granted that it's a positive thing, helpful for society. Of course, it's a good thing to know if you've got a sex offender living next door. But one article I read did raise a good point that nowadays all sex criminals are placed on it. A statutory rape case where a high schooler has slept with their partner who's just a year younger consensually could be placed on the registry next to a serial offender paedophile, or somebody who peed on the side of a building at 3 AM. I haven't really had enough time or done enough research to form a fully fledged opinion on this yet, but it's something to ponder on for sure. Of course though, I do think it's better to have a sex registry than not, but anyway, I digress. That's not really what this video is about. Jason Vukovich explored Alaska's sex offender registry, where he chose his future victims by their crime. If they'd committed sexual crimes towards children, Jason put them on his list. He literally carried around a notebook with a list of names. He said there were 3 particular men that he'd heard about through the grapevine, but didn't know them personally. He felt like he had to confront them. This all happened in June 2016, and he later wrote, "I thought back to my experiences as a child and felt the overwhelming desire to act. I took matters into my own hands and assaulted 3 paedophiles." The 3 men he were going to attack were Charles Albee, Andre Barbosa and Wesley Demarest in the span of just 5 days, entering their homes and attacking them. 68-year-old Demarest has actually spoken out publicly about this assault, during which time he said that Jason entered his home and attacked him with a hammer. According to Jason's letter, in one instance upon breaking into the house, the man immediately began punching me. I reached for a weapon, a hammer, and fractured his skull. During the attack, Jason apparently referred to himself as an avenging angel, saying, "I'm going to mete out justice for the people you hurt." Demarest's skull was fractured during the attack, leaving him with a lasting traumatic brain injury, making it hard for him to string sentences together, and as a result, he lost his job and struggled to pay rent. Demarest has said, "It just pretty well destroyed my life, so he got what he wanted, I guess, and that he would prefer it if Jason is not walking around whilst I'm alive." However, Demarest was convicted in 2006 for attempted second-degree sexual abuse of a minor, so my sympathy for him there is incredibly limited. I'm sure his victims feel the exact same way. Other victims of Vukovich were attacked to a lesser extent, just having items such as the laptop in a truck stolen from them. It didn't take long for Jason to be caught for his crimes. At trial, aged 42 years old, he pleaded guilty to 1 first-degree attempted assault and a consolidated count of first-degree robbery. It was part of a plea deal in which prosecutors agreed to drop more than a dozen additional charges against him in exchange for those pleas. On February 26, 2018, he was officially sentenced to 23 years in prison for the attacks, eligible to apply for parole after almost 6 years. The judge said at sentencing, "I don't believe that you're an avenging angel and you should not be glorified as one. Frankly, you're a very dangerous individual. You commit crimes non-stop and you did it in a way that was cruel and unnecessary to what you needed to accomplish." Jason's attorney, Ember Tilton, has said, "I don't think he needs to be punished. He has already been punished. This whole thing started out as a punishment of a child who didn't deserve to be treated in that way." He says he thinks that a more appropriate course of action here should have been some type of correctional supervision for a very long time, in addition to attendance at a treatment programme for post-traumatic stress disorder and violent offenders. Whilst at first Jason stood by his actions, upon reflection he now feels differently and urges others not to act as vigilantes. In his letter to the community he writes, "I want my story to serve as a deterrent. My choices led to where I currently sit, looking at 20 years in prison. If you have already lost your youth like me to a child abuser, please do not throw away your present and your future by committing acts of violence. Please do not act out like I did. Cherish your own life and freedom. Learn from my story and seek peace, not retribution." He basically urges others not to act as he did, saying his life sentence actually started years ago when he was adopted by his father. This is obviously a man who was very angry at the world, probably rightly so, as he spent his entire childhood being abused and upon trying to escape was denied his social security and any chance to get a job and a good start at life. From there, his life was just on a downward spiral. But is that justification for life as a criminal, for assaulting someone so badly that it essentially destroyed the rest of their life, even if said person was a child abuser? Do two wrongs make a right? There's petition after petition online about how Jason Vukovich deserves to be freed, how he was doing the right thing for society. You look at the comments on any post about this case on Facebook and the opinion of him is overwhelmingly positive. But condoning vigilante justice seems to me to be a way for society to fall very quickly. At what point does somebody do something awful enough for it to be considered okay for vigilante justice to be doled out? This case actually kind of reminds me of that of the Menendez brothers who killed their own parents, later claiming they were sexually abused by their father as children. Lots of people think they should be free as well, then a lot of people don't even believe them. The thing for me is, vigilante justice doesn't undo a person's crime. The people that Jason attacked have been caught and punished for their crimes and are now out living law-abiding lives. Would an attack like this just make the person think, fuck it, I'm going to be hated anyway, so I might as well continue doing what I'm going to do? I understand that Jason was angry, that he wanted people to pay for his pain. Would it just push these paedophiles to go back out and be paedophiles? I understand that Jason was angry, that he wanted people to pay for his pain, but vigilante justice probably wasn't the way to go about it. Whether he deserves such a lengthy sentence or not, I'm not too sure, but he did have years and years of criminal action behind him. He probably would have got a much lesser sentence if he'd been a law-abiding citizen up until that point. But that's just my general opinion on the topic. I know this is a very layered subject and I'm very intrigued to see what all of your thoughts and feelings are going to be on this one. So please make sure you leave your comments down below. I found this case super interesting to look into and research. So if you know of any other similar cases to this, then please let me know. You can either contact me in the comments, Instagram or Twitter. I don't usually have time to reply to everything, but I do see most messages. So even if I don't reply, I've probably seen it. I get a lot of messages. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.